We have beaten the Squishers, and now it's time to face our final enemy. An enemy that is so fearsome that he's worthy of being the closing of this entire story. A villain greater than the Three-Eyed Bro, or the Squisher King, or anything that we have seen before. He is the grandest and most savage creature to ever grace this earth.
Dude, this person seems treacherous. Who is it?
His name is Hot Pie.
Dude, like the chubby boy at the end of the crossroads? I think our army can take him pretty easily, or Scrappy Doo can handle him by himself, or anyone really. I mean, we can walk into the inn and just kill him. Security is horrible.
No, we shall split up our forces and head forth blindly. Then we shall surround the inn and starve him out. That's the only way to defeat him.
No, really, I can just pay a random dude 5 dragons, or at least let me scout, cause I totally have supernatural abilities.
Silence!
Do you think Chad Summerchild is going insane?
Oh, he's completely bonkers. I totally buy into the mad bro theory.
And our episode begins with Jorah, good and dead, and Emilia Clarke whispering something inaudible to him. Hey, we can't hear you. And neither can Jorah. He's dead.
And then there's Sandra mourning Theon, a lot. Hey, remember how she mourned her actual brother Rickon? Oh wait, no, she fed her ex-husband to a dog and smirked in satisfaction when that happened.
Anyway, Sandra then honors Theon as a Stark, and then proceeds to give him a funeral tradition of neither a Stark, a Northerner, or an Ironborn. I guess there's no werewood net or watery halls for Theon.
I'm sure House Mormont, House Greyjoy, House Dondarrion, and House Tillett will be super happy that their families' bodies aren't returned.
Well, House Mormont is extinct, but yes for the rest.
And isn't this way too few pyres? I mean, we're looking at 12 by 12? Being super generous, say there's 50 people per pyre. The actual number seems to be about half that. That only adds up to 7,200 casualties. Later in the episode, they specifically say half of their forces were killed. There should be 50,000 dead, plus the army of the dead, which is another 100,000 or so.
I think the rest were raptured by the Lord of Light or something.
Also, are they burning everyone with their armor on? What the fuck are they thinking? That's good armor. You have wars to come. And you only have one blacksmith. It's no wonder that a drunken lady and a crazy pirate are giving them a run for their money.
Alright, simmer down, sweet Robin. We have a long way to go in this episode. A long way to go.
Anyway, we then jump to Gendry wondering where Wolverine is, and then the Hound is first angrily criticizing Gendry for thinking with his dick, and then is immediately angrily claiming that Gendry should be thinking with his dick because he's alive. Okay, dude.
And then on the way out, Emilia Clarke asks Gendry if he's the son of Robert, and then asks everyone who the Lord of Storm's End is. And oh my god, this is just one of those incredible meta moments. No one knows. And yes, I fucking see you, Shade of the Lamp. Oh my lord, the humanity on this. Yes, we the viewers have no idea who the Lord of Storm's End is because the Stormlands have been completely forgotten about since Season 2. They're so forgotten about that Storm's End should still be held by Stannis' men, and there's been no mention of it since.
Isn't Jeekwe the Lady of Storm's End?
Why not? But what's really stupid about this scene is that everyone should know who the Lord or Lady of Storm's End is. It's a major military fortification and is essential for the conquest of the Seven Kingdoms. Emilia Clarke should definitely know who holds it. Maester Wolkin should definitely know who holds it. Tyrion should know who holds it. Davos should know who holds it. Jaime should know who holds it. Bronzion Royce should know who holds it. Brienne, who's a subject of the Stormlands, should know who holds it. This is the equivalent of invading Europe and having no idea who the president of France is.
Anyway, Emilia Clarke then legitimizes Gendry, which is declared as a clever move by Tyrion, despite the fact that Emilia Clarke just created another claimant to the Iron Throne. Robert was king, and that makes Gendry heir, so great move there.
And then Davos proceeds to tell Tyrion about Melisandre's fate in depth, even though Tyrion met her one time.
Tyrion then asks the Bran 9000 about his wheelchair and brings up the saddle that he built for him.
And that's a Season 1 reference.
Who the hell was that?
Oh, that's just my friend Greg. He gets really excited every time the show tries to reclaim its past glory by referring to Season 1.
Anyway, the Bran 9000 then mentions that this wheelchair is the same design as Daeron Targaryen's crippled nephew. In case you're wondering about history, this is show-only continuity, but the Daeron mentioned would be Daeron II, meaning that the nephew would be a Dornish prince, making it a nice little parallel to the crippled Doran Martell. It's such an astoundingly subtle detail that I can only surmise that the writers made this parallel by complete fucking accident.
Wait a minute, if the Dornish had wheelchair technology, or the Westerosi had it in general, why didn't Doran Martell have one?
Oh, right. No, this is dumb.
Anyway, toasts start going around, and Emilia Clarke finds out that everyone likes Wolverine better. And Tormund, who was so damn progressive 2 episodes ago with his whole women should be knights thing, suddenly starts giving props to Kit Harington for riding a dragon, even though Kit Harington riding a dragon has had no effect on the plot whatsoever.
Anyway, Emilia Clarke starts looking neglected.
Whoa, stop. Is that a fucking Starbucks cup?
I think...
Oh my god, it's a fucking Starbucks cup. $15 million an episode.
Anyway, next they put on some weird music and weird angles, and they try to make Emilia Clarke look crazy, and it seems to work because for no reason at all, Varys starts questioning Emilia Clarke's sanity. And then we get to Tyrion, Jaime, and Brienne playing Tyrion's drinking game.
And that's a season 1 reference.
He's gonna keep doing that, eh?
Oh yeah.
Anyway, Tyrion then guesses that Brienne is a virgin, even though in this universe, highborn unmarried women are supposed to be virgins. If you remember, Lysa losing her virginity is one of the reasons she has to be dumped on Jon Arryn. This is a truly baffling scene, as Brienne's nickname is even the Maid of Tarth. Of course she hasn't had sex. If she had, she would have brought major shame to her house. Anyway, she storms off, and Tormund is cock-blocked by Jaime, but it doesn't matter as everybody's getting laid tonight. Podrick's getting laid, Tormund's getting laid, and the Hound, well, he decides to shoo away the only unpaid consensual sex he's likely to ever have, but whatever.
Sandor then sits with the Hound and they discuss how Ramsay hurt her, but then they have a good old laugh at how Sandor fed him to dogs. Ah ha 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 ha. Her brother was murdered like 4 hours before that.
Sandra then says she's totally not into benevolent sexism, and then we get to Gendry, who tells Arya that he's been legitimized and is no longer Gendry Rivers. Yeah, lowborn that didn't know they're actually bastards of a highborn have no surname. Gendry was just Gendry, but say he did assign himself a surname after discovering he was Robert's bastard. He would either be Gendry Storm, as his father was from the Stormlands, or he would be Gendry Waters, as he was born in King's Landing. Under no circumstances would he be Gendry Rivers. And then Gendry becomes the real insane one of the episode. He declares that he's in love with Wolverine, and then he gets on one knee and proposes to her. I don't know which is worse, this or the Starbucks cup. Proposals aren't a thing in Westeros. It's a world of arranged marriages to facilitate alliances and land consolidation. If Gendry really wants to get married to Wolverine, he should be talking to Sandra, the Lady of Winterfell. Whatever the case, Wolverine says no, as that's not her.
And that's a season 1 reference. Anyway, Jaime arrives at Brienne's room and they have sex, which, as far as I can tell, is the only reason Jaime went north plot-wise. He does nothing else of note at Winterfell and returns right afterwards.
That's interesting, as it reminds me of when Brienne went south to Riverrun in Season 6. She accomplished nothing of note and returns right afterwards as well. It's like the whole trip was written in just for this brief rendezvous.
Come to think of it, the entire armistice at the Dragon Pit and the White Retrieval mission north of the Wall only resulted in one thing. Jaime leaving to go north. And that in turn only results in one thing. Jaime and Brienne sleeping together. It's like massively crazy and pointless cross-continental journeys are just being written in so Jaime and Brienne can eventually fuck.
Emilia Clarke and Kit Harington then try to join in on the castle-wide sex fest, but then lose their mojo as Emilia Clarke is sad that no one on this side of the Narrow Sea looks at her as a queen. Except, the Ironborn and the Reachers and the Dornish and Kit Harington. I mean, it's honestly like half the population of the kingdom. Emilia Clarke then asks Kit Harington to keep his parentage a secret, as the truth she claims will destroy them. Both of them ridiculously overlooking the obvious solution of their marriage.
The Brain Trust then gets together and discusses how things are falling apart. Except for the Iron Isles being retaken and the Prince of Dorne declaring for Emilia Clarke. Honestly, things are actually kind of looking peachy.
Wait a minute, did you say the Prince of Dorne?
Emilia Clarke logically wants to strike the capital and kill Cersei, and for the second goddamn time we get this fucking boneheaded plan. split the forces up, transport some by sea despite having naval inferiority, and then surround King's Landing and try to starve them out because starving people is so humane. This is the very same plan that led to the destruction of the Tyrells, the Dornish, and Dany's fleet. Dany's fleet the first time, it got destroyed twice last season. It also led to the capture of some high-ranking officials. I guess no one learns from their mistakes around here.
Sandra protests and wants to rest the army a bit, which is a bit rich coming from someone who made the Wildlings fight at Winterfell after they just fought Stannis at Castle Black and the White Walkers at Hardhome. Emilia Clarke, though, wants to attack immediately, as she's fearful that Cersei's power is growing.
Why is no one talking about using Wolverine to assassinate Cersei, or using the Brand 9000 to get information or to scout? They literally have two overpowered superhumans at their disposal. Not to mention, Varys, Wolverine, Davos, Jaime, and Tyrion all know about the tunnels underneath King's Landing. It would be a simple enough job for Wolverine. This is a woman who infiltrated the twins and murdered dozens of Freys. Or Bran could simply send in a conspiracy of ravens and peck Cersei to death. Or paint Drogon black and swoop in at night clandestinely. There are literally 100 ways to kill Cersei easily.
Anyway, the meeting causes Jean Grey, Professor X, and Wolverine to want to speak to Kit Harington in private, and they tell him they don't trust Emilia Clarke. And why don't they trust her? Because she's not one of them. That's literally the reason they provided. These are supposed to be the protagonists. And for some reason, the Stark family's irrational hatred of Emilia Clarke leads to Kit Harington wanting to spill information that's damaging to her. Well, Kit Harington was never the smartest lad. For what it's worth, he does make them swear in front of a heart tree not to tell, and as book fans know, there's extreme religious significance to swearing in front of a heart tree. But considering there's absolutely no mention of the religious significance, and the fact that Sandra immediately breaks her vows, makes me think that the writers had no friggin' idea. After all, what are vows to any of these characters?
We next get to Tyrion and Jaime having a drink at a deserted pub, when Bronn enters with a crossbow and threatens them by saying that he hasn't been paid. Tyrion says that he's been made a knight, which Bronn claims is worthless, and then for some reason Tyrion shoehorns in saying power resides where men think it resides. And that's a Season 1 reference. Yeah, that's certainly not getting old. Bronn then says that Cersei offered him River Run to kill them, and Tyrion brings up the offer of beating any deal that anyone else makes. And that's a Season 1 reference. I think Greg may need to die. Anyway, Bronn demands Highgarden, which is friggin' ridiculous, as Emilia Clarke's faction is controlled by Emilia Clarke. Jaime has absolutely no sway with the Dragon Queen, so he's a non-entity, and Tyrion might be able to convince Emilia Clarke to give away a lesser lordship, but certainly nothing like Highgarden. This is a promise Tyrion would never be able to keep. Anyway, Bronn leaves, and like idiots, Jaime and Tyrion don't immediately call guards to have Bronn killed.
Next, we jump to the Hound, who has spontaneously decided that now is the time, of all times in his life, that he needs to go to kill his brother. I'm not sure what the Mountain has done lately to piss off the Hound. Did he send him an insulting letter or something? Because there is no reason for him to be heading to King's Landing. It's almost like the writers just wanted to push Wolverine and the Hound to have a reunion. Now, on the other hand, Wolverine heading south to kill Cersei is by far the most logical thing going on in this episode. No one else even considered it for some reason, despite Wolverine being Jason Bourne squared and having intimate knowledge of the tunnels under King's Landing.
We then get to Tyrion saying goodbye to Sandra, and Sandra wonders why Emilia Clarke is so special, again hating her for no discernible reason. And I have to say, Tyrion really blows it on providing a good explanation on why people should follow Emilia Clarke. He essentially just says that she wants to help people and he believes in her. You know what he should lead with? Her name, the Breaker of Chains. She freed millions of people from slavery, revolutionized a continent, and won similar action in Westeros. It was kind of a big deal. I know it's easy to forget as only 4 seasons of the friggin' show were dedicated to it. You can like Dany or hate her, but she's definitely special. Whatever the case, Sandra then decides to defy her family's faith and breaks the vow that she made in front of a heart tree. Wow, that took, 15 minutes?
We then get to Kit Harington, who says goodbye to Tormund, who's going to return north with the wildlings when the winter snows past. So I guess in 5 years? And for some unknown reason, Kit Harington gives up Ghost.
I think we know the reason. They were sick of paying for the CGI wolf.
For 2 more episodes? Kit Harington then says goodbye to Sam and Gilly, and after hugging Gilly, figures out that she's pregnant. Although it was kind of obvious before.
Shouldn't Sam be heading south to Horn Hill? Aren't they going the same way?
Yeah, I have no idea what Sam is doing. Maybe he was given Last Hearth or something?
When he already has Horn Hill?
I have no clue, but regardless, he tells Kit Harington that he's his best friend, and Kit Harington says the same to Sam, and then looks right at Ghost. And now I'd like to show you something from a video called How I Would Fix Game of Thrones Season 7 Part 1, published on October 16th, 2017. The episode would end with Dany sailing towards King's Landing with her fleet and her Unsullied. Dany flies with her dragon, though as they pass the island of Driftmark, Euron's fleet is hidden there for a sneak attack. Dany attempts to intervene, but a ballista fires from a ship and nearly hits Drogon, and so Dany panics and flees. Euron then utterly destroys Dany's fleet, killing all of the Unsullied and Grey Worm while capturing Yara. Yeah, so that happened. I will grant you that the fleet was hiding behind Dragonstone instead of Driftmark next door, and it's Missandei who was captured instead of Yara, and Missandei who was eventually killed instead of Grey Worm, and Rhaegal dies, but everything else is exactly the fucking same. So yeah, I pretty much predicted this scene a year and a half ago, though for me it was the destruction of Dany's fleet the first time, rather than the third time.
Jeez, way to toot your own horn, sweet Robin. Anyway, Cersei in King's Landing decides to use the small folk as human shields by bringing them into the Red Keep, something that's only really possible because everyone in King's Landing knows what castles are for, unlike northern generals. And then Cersei tells Euron that she's pregnant with his child. When it's born, she'll only have to tell him it's 6 months premature.
We then get Grey Worm suggesting to Emilia Clarke that they storm King's Landing, a fairly logical and conventional plan, and once again Varys and Tyrion push the do not attack plan. Emilia Clarke rejects inaction, but is convinced to at least delay and attempt diplomacy, awaiting Kit Harington.
And then we get this baffling discussion between Varys and Tyrion where Varys claims that Kit Harington would be a better monarch, and marriage is completely off the table. This conversation actually happens twice, once before Euron's sneak attack and once after, and I glossed over the first one because they're nearly identical in content and both frigging insane. Varys, for some reason, thinks Emilia Clarke is literally crazy based on nothing. He was suspicious of her so-called insanity at Winterfell based on her looking around, and now he thinks she's insane for wanting to actually attack her enemy, something that has been done in nearly every war that's ever been fought. In fact, has there ever been any war where the winning side stopped and decided to isolate the capital city of the opposition and starve them out to spare the civilian population? Has that ever been done? Even once? Even if it has, Emilia Clarke wants to participate in conventional, run-of-the-mill war. Doing something that's conventional is almost the exact opposite of insane. And don't get me started on Varys. This is a man who conspired to put Viserys on the throne, backed by Khal Drogo. Somehow that was for the good of the realm? Viserys wanted to introduce slaving to Westeros.
What did Ned Stark want you for? Buying from a slaver?
Selling to one. Some poachers I caught on my land.
Under my reign, you won't be punished for such nonsense. You can rest assured of that.
It's all for the realm. And then there's Varys' rejection of the marriage between Kit Harington and Emilia Clarke. He claims it won't be accepted because marriage between an aunt and a nephew isn't okay in the North, except yes, it totally is. Not to mention, the world seemed completely okay when Cersei was openly flaunting her incest throughout Season 7. Suddenly, public perception matters. Not when the fucking Sept of Baelor is destroyed, but no, an aunt-nephew marriage during medieval times. Gasp. God forbid.
Meanwhile, up north, Jaime finds out about Euron's attack and is taunted by Sandra that Cersei is going to be executed. And so Jaime decides to go back to King's Landing, but not before confessing all his crimes to Brienne and saying he's a bad person. And regardless of Jaime's true motive, it seems pretty dumb. If he's going to protect Cersei, then I don't know what the hell Jaime's redemption plot was about. And if it's to kill Cersei, then, dude, I think Wolverine, Emilia Clarke, and Kit Harington have it covered.
And finally, we get to King's Landing in the middle of its brutal, brutal winter. So cold. I have no clue why Cersei hasn't sent out thousands of men to murder Emilia Clarke right now, or shoot her with a ballista. Seems like a no-brainer. I mean, they're close enough to hear Missandei yell, so it seems like Cersei could just win the war right here. Anyway, Tyrion tries to talk to Qyburn, but quickly realizes that Qyburn makes too much sense in pointing out their newfound tactical superiority, and so he tries to convince Cersei to surrender and be spared in order to save the life of her child. Of course, Euron should be wondering how Tyrion knows Cersei is pregnant, and why her baby bump is so big, Anyway, Cersei rejects Tyrion's offer and decides to behead Missandei, as Joffrey did Ned Stark. And that's a season 1 reference. No, my Kraken is dead. Hot Pie will pay. He will pay. Crakaris.
Dude, I did tell you I could have scouted for you.
My god, Chad Summerchild is out of control.
We need to remove him for the good of the realm.